ever since I was probably 16 years old, I've had a lot of beliefs around healthcare, how healthcare could be better. I remember being 16 and interviewing my doctors and trying to like find a doctor who was actually good. And there wasn't like a single general primary care doctor I could find who would like pass my interview threshold. It's like, what the hell is going on where doctors can't answer questions that 16-year-old me knew and wanted the answer to? Something has to change. I wasn't entrenched in the dogma of what currently exists and thought a little bit more about where the future should go. And that allows you to start to dream and start to ask what if. And it's far easier to do that as a patient often than it is as an insider. Right. Because as a patient, you understand the way patients relate to health, the way patients relate to information. And I think if you're trying to do something in a new way, it's very hard to do that from the model of thinking that created the existing way. Right. You often need to do it from a completely new paradigm.
Max, what's up, brother? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, excited to be here, man.
Max, if your brother was going to describe you in a nutshell, what would you say about you?
Oh, gosh, I love this question. Very ambitious, creative, very curious, always asking questions, independent-minded, always doing things my way, smart, always trying to learn, hardworking.
Those are all good things. What bad things would he say?
Oh gosh, what bad things would he say?
Don't out yourself, but just like lighthearted bad things.
Maybe works, like he'd use many of the same things, but potentially as pejoratives, because I think a good thing taken to an extreme potentially becomes a bad thing. And I think you can assume many of them are negative, right? You could say works too hard. You could say sacrifices too much. Gives up too much. Isn't present enough. Is always asking questions. Is always obsessed with learning. Doesn't relax. So there's the flip side of many of the positives.
Basically an entrepreneur.
Potentially, yeah. I do think that there are some commonalities amongst qualities of entrepreneurs.
Awesome. So maybe could you take us back to like young Max? Like, you know, who was Max growing up? You know, from like 10 to 15 years old. Yeah.
So very young me was obsessed with Lego, and I wanted to be like a Lego designer first and then an architect. And I would spend hours and hours in my room all day building existing Lego sets, coming up with new ones that I created, and then playing like weird imaginary games with them. And that was very much in my own head, in my own room, doing that for extended periods of my life. Until I was maybe like age 6 or something, maybe 7 or 8, but it was mainly when I was quite young. Then there was that period probably from 7 to 10 where I was mischievous, always playing some sort of practical joke or prank, always up to no good, always running amok. I loved exploring. Our house used to back onto this kind of rocky area that you could explore with like bushes and trees. And I climbed and made huts and got up to no good there. Then younger me was always enterprising in semi-commercial senses, right? Playing Minecraft, starting Minecraft servers, auctioning off fake houses in Minecraft with my brother as like a dummy bidder, selling weird stuff in the playground that was really dropship from Alibaba that I pretended was the real thing. Jerseys, hats, these things called power bands, the whole lot.
Yeah. So you had a bit of the entrepreneurial spirit even as a kid. And obviously, like, you know, the building, doing Legos, like seems like you creative in a sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've always had like a bit of that creative bent, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I never thought of myself as someone who was creative. And I think the reason why is that the first kind of like formulaic expression of creativity in the real world for me was art class. Yeah. And art class was about how well do you draw? And I think in my head, I internalized the fact that because I'm not good at drawing, therefore I'm not creative. But I think creativity has all sorts of different like flavors. Some people are very creative with words and poetry.
Yeah.
Some people are very creative with like buildings and the built world, and they understand how things fit together. Some people are very creative with ways in which they architect systems. Yeah. And then some people are good at art in the more classical sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, going into like high school, maybe even early college, what were you like? Were you like a great student? Did you always have an idea of what you wanted to do? What were you like back then?
I was a good student in the sense that I did well. And when you do well, your teachers one, kind of happy because it makes them look good, and two, they put up with your shit. So the on the flip side, I gave teachers a lot of shit. I slept through half of my classes. I snuck out of school. I didn't listen to teachers. I played practical jokes on them. I always challenged them. I made their life really hard. If I didn't think they were competent, I made their life like particularly hard. I probably got a few teachers fired. So I was like a good student in the sense that I did well, and a bad student in the sense that when I didn't think a teacher was good, I was kind of coming for them.
Yeah. What made you feel like someone wasn't good as a teacher?
They typically weren't that smart or insightful. They didn't actually effectively teach. They often had what I perceived as like flaws of character that might be objective. It's probably just like my subjective assessment that might look like bullying kids or like telling someone they're stupid for asking a question. There were like certain things that would like rub me the wrong way. And there were times when as a result, I decided I didn't like a teacher. I didn't have respect for them. I didn't think they were smart. I didn't think they did a good job of teaching. And then why should I listen to someone who is in a position of title, but isn't actually showing that with the way they act.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And what would you say, like, what were your parents like? Like, what kind of influence did they have on you growing up?
They let me explore most things so long as it wasn't something unsafe. They were pretty strict with the people who were friends of mine. Like they were hypercritical of people. There were some of my friends who they loved and they'd speak highly of that friend and their family. And then there were other friends that are like, no, that person shouldn't be your friend. And I think at the time that was frustrating. In retrospect, I'm very grateful. And they were always very giving people. My parents always thought about others, potentially even before themselves, which is very rare, I think, just for humans in general. They exposed my brother. They didn't treat my brother and I like little kids. They gave us more kind of empowerment and the ability to like reason and think. We had a lot of debates. As a family, debating was kind of the norm. And all of these things at the time were frustrating. In retrospect, I'm very grateful for.
Did they let you fail a lot?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know whether they ever thought about that.
Yeah. Interesting. And this goes without saying, obviously, you grew up in Australia. Were you in Sydney, Australia? Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. And what was that like growing up in Sydney compared to like now living here in San Francisco?
It was cool because the house where I grew up, as I mentioned, I'd walk outside and there'd be this like big bush and rocky area I could explore and run around. Then we backed onto kind of like a cul-de-sac and I'd play cricket and soccer there. And in the backyard, we transformed our backyard. We like kind of like dug it out and transformed it into a mini futsal field, like a mini soccer field. So I was very active. I was always running around. And I think that's very characteristic of an Australian lifestyle. I think that Australia is very safe and you start to take that for granted. I think Australia is very happy and you start to take that for granted. There's a lot of space. It's very sunny and warm. But I don't know. I think I often hear, this place is good or bad to bring up kids. I don't have actually a good sense for what makes somewhere good or bad to bring up kids. I think more important than the place are the family and how the family brings the kids up and the school and the kids' friends. And that can be in an insulated place of a city that is not classically good to bring up kids, or it can be within any place of a city that is classically good to bring up kids. Yeah.
Interesting. So Max, a lot of our listeners, they have healthcare backgrounds or doctors or nurses or physical therapists, and, they see someone like you building in healthcare. A lot of people aspire to start a company or to, build in healthcare, or to even innovate in a new way, especially healthcare professionals, right? And so, part of what I'd love for people to see is kind of like to peel back the curtains, because like careers they're not linear, right? They're up and down. You learn a little bit here, a little bit there, and then maybe you start a company one day. And so, I'd love to just kind of like look at your career progression, leading up to founding SuperPower, which has, done amazing things up until like today. Like you guys have only been around 2 years and have already accomplished so much. But what was, like your career like, if you could, chronologically walk us through this kind of journey since maybe high school or college?
I don't really think much about career progression. And I definitely don't think about chronology and linearity. I think we love to connect the dots looking backwards, and we love to attribute strong causal reasonings to everything that happened to getting us to where we are today. And I think the world is actually far more random. It's far more non-linear. I think people try to look at history as a way to say, oh, therefore I need to do all of these things to then do the thing I actually want to do.
Yeah.
I think the reality is most people can just do the thing they want to do in the most direct way possible.
Sounds easy.
I explored all sorts of different things. I started a small venture capital fund. I worked in finance, in banking, small bank and big bank. I worked at a couple of VC funds and public market funds. I worked at two different startups. I started my own small thing. I've been starting lots of my own small things over an extended period of time. I started studying law, and then finance, and then mathematics and statistics, and then biomedical engineering, and I dropped out of all of them. My basic view was do the thing for long enough to be ranking first at the school, and then drop out and do the next thing. And my view there was people often drop out because they're not doing well at the thing. So I'm like, if I'm going to drop out, I kind of have to be first at the thing to prove that I'm good at it. And then when I drop out, it's kind of more comical, and it's seen less as a response to not doing well and more as an independent judgment around what could be a better use of time.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very curious. Like you like to try different things and learn about them, get good at them. Maybe it's just like the thrill of getting good at something.
I've always asked lots of questions. I think dumb questions are amazing. I remember in high school, I in my math class, used to always ask the dumb question. The teacher would always laugh at me. And then every test, he'd be like, so surprised that I'd be ranking first. He's like, well, the kid who asked all the stupid questions, how's that right? And I think that being willing to be dumb is almost a prerequisite to be smart. And I think the founder synonym of that is like being willing to fail is almost a prerequisite to succeed. Being
willing to be wrong even. Yeah. A lot of people go through like their careers, and I speak generally, like for this show, obviously a lot of our listeners are in healthcare, and they reach a point, maybe a couple of years in training, where it's like, okay, I did this for a while, and now I want to try maybe something new. Do I start over? Do I go back to school? Do I risk that? And I like that you're kind of saying like there's no linearity. It's just like, hey, if you went to school for this, I went to school as a doctor. I dropped out of residency, and then I started a new career path, and I was already 30 by the time that happened. And so I think that there's always like this fear of taking the next step or doing the thing, or even not doing the thing because you have so much sunk cost, right? And sunk cost holds a lot of people back in their journeys. Did you ever feel like you invested too much into something and, maybe like you couldn't jump out of it, or was that not really part of your programming?
I don't think sunk costs are that useful. The question is always just opportunity cost, which is today, given my set of options, what's the best option?
Yeah.
And that's independent of what has happened in the past. Right now, what's happened in the past modifies the set of options, but it's still just a set of options. So I just think, what's the actual set of options here? And let's not think about what's the set of options and the opportunity set over the next 1 to 2 years. Let's actually extend the time axis. Right? Let's assume that we're all going to be on this planet for at least 100 years. If that's the case, we have a long time over which we can test things, explore things, create things, start things. And I think a lot of people take a very short-term view. The short-term view means your option set is very constrained. The long-term view means your option set is almost unlimited.
Yeah. Interesting. I haven't really thought about it like that. Like 100 years is a long time, right? If you really think about it. We're still in the first quarter, first third, I guess for me, if you think about it. But yeah, I guess we don't really think about how long life really is. And, maybe this is a good segue into SuperPower and obviously building a longevity company. I guess, how are you thinking about this stage of your career and also building in the longevity space?
I, again, think of it less as a stage of career and more as there comes a time in your life where you have to find, at least my view, I wanted to find the one thing that I wanted to commit a large part of my life to. And a large part of my life here I see as at least 30 years and hopefully far longer. Mm-hmm. And there were very few ideas of things that I actually wanted to work on and cared about and mattered to the world enough for me to say this deserves working on for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I think one of those things is extending and enhancing human life. Mm-hmm. I think one of the most important things in the world is human life and human health, right? I think if we improve health, we improve life. If we improve health, we're smarter and happier and more present and can create more and do more. Yeah. And that starts with our biology, our health. Yeah. So for me, that's crucially important.
I mean, is there a particular reason that you wanted to focus on healthcare? Because I've known you for a while now, even before starting SuperPower. And I know that you've always had this interest in healthcare specifically. And I remember actually we were talking one day, and maybe we were talking about Forward or something else, but we were talking about just kind of like re-envisioning healthcare. And like you were talking about this for a long time. And we talk about like, hey, is this going to work? Is that going to work? Is this possible? Is that possible? But, you know, from what I remember about you is like you always had this like idea that healthcare could be different and it could be reinvented. It could be futuristic. Is there a particular reason it was just like really the focus on healthcare? Or is it just because like, it's like one of those challenges. It's like the thing it's like healthcare is 100-0 against everybody, right? Against the big payers, against the big startups, against Forward, against everyone. No one's figured out healthcare.
Yeah, I think there are very few problems that matter for the world and were personally meaningful for me. I had a lot of health challenges. And when you go through that experience, you start to form beliefs around healthcare can be better. And I remember I was, ever since I was probably 16 years old, I've had a lot of beliefs around healthcare, how healthcare could be better. I remember being 16 and interviewing my doctors and trying to like find a doctor who was actually good. And there wasn't like a single general primary care doctor I could find who would like pass my interview threshold. It's like, what the hell is going on where doctors can't answer questions that 16-year-old me knew and wanted the answer to? Something has to change. And that's just the tip of the spear in terms of the set of problems that exist. And I think because of that, I saw a lot of problems. I had a vision for how things could be a little bit different. I wasn't entrenched in the dogma of what currently exists and thought a little bit more about where the future should go. And that allows you to start to dream and start to ask what if. And it's far easier to do that as a patient often than it is as an insider.
Right.
Because as a patient, you understand the way patients relate to health, the way patients relate to information. And I think if you're trying to do something in a new way, it's very hard to do that from the model of thinking that created the existing way. You often need to do it from a completely new paradigm.
What were the questions you would ask your, let's say, doctor, like in the, you know, as you're trying to assess, is this someone that I trust to take advice from? Like, what were those?
Yeah, I got to pull up the document. I've got it somewhere.
What would make someone feel, what would you make you feel like, okay, this is someone I trust their advice?
Yeah, I would ask things like, how do you think you can prevent heart disease? Have you heard of ApoB? What's the role of the gut microbiome? I'd ask about, like, and I had a whole list of questions. It'd be like, how do you evaluate evidence? There was a good list.
Yeah.
And
were you just well informed just because you were interested in healthcare, or just like you knew a lot about it?
Like being around, I didn't know more than my doctors about it, but there were things that I knew that they didn't know, and I think those things tended to correlate with doctors who are at the frontier, right? I didn't know how to prescribe statins and titrate medication, and triage and refer out and deal with chronic. I had no idea about that, but I spent a lot of time reading and learning about the frontier of prevention, human optimization, new things that were coming to light, holistic health. And many or most of them hadn't been taught that, and they hadn't decided that it's important enough to learn it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to work with someone who hasn't decided this is important enough to learn, because it's potentially a sign of their thinking. Now, you could say their thinking is heavily influenced by their upbringing and their enculturation and socialization, everything through medical school, which is true. But at the same time, if I wanted to improve my life through improving my health, I hope to find someone who could actually support that more holistically, rather than just think of symptom band-aid.
Right. Well, when you go to a doctor, they're going through like a set of standard guidelines that they were taught, you know, if X, then Y, and you know, you just do these certain algorithmic things. And actually, you know, our medical, like the world's changed so much, even since I went to medical school. The things I can learn on a podcast today, like the consumer is so well informed today.
Correct.
Right? Like we have an abundance of unlimited knowledge at our fingertips. And now it's like, how do you build, you know, when you have a consumer who's so well informed and you go to a doctor that trained in an archaic medical system, it's kind of, there's like a huge disconnect now, because, you know, 20 or 30 years ago, you'd go to the doctor and you were completely uninformed. You don't know anything because the information is not available. And so you really got to put all your faith and trust into the provider, the doctor, whoever it might be. And today that's just completely different, right? It's, you know, people just are very well informed, and, you know, before they want to take your advice, they want to trust you. And to trust you, They got to know like you're up to speed, you're in good shape, you're healthy, you're taking care of yourself, you're doing the best protocols, and especially like the eudaimonia. Yeah, like the whole
happiness and
joy. Yeah, like that's like the new like this younger generation that's super important, right? And so they're looking for something different today.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that the classical view has been patients, not people, patients shouldn't be empowered with information.
Right.
It's too complicated. It's too sophisticated.
Yeah.
I think the increasingly emerging view is people should be given choice and have the agency to make decisions and should be given information.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see all sorts of emergent benefits, right? I remember, again, 16-year-old me would ask my doctors about what's the gut microbiome? Can you test it? And the classical response was, no, that's pseudoscience, right?
Yeah.
And so many things we used to call pseudoscience, we now call science, but it's so hard for people to actually have the open-mindedness to say, what if? Let's actually entertain this. The first step in the scientific method is hypothesis, right? Is reasoning, is actually experimenting it and questioning.
Yeah.
And that's just so absent from the way in which we've structured the system.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because that starts with medical education.
Yeah.
Medical education is dogmatic rather than curious. It's not that open. And we continue to learn that things we used to think weren't real are real and very impactful. And the inverse, right? Things we think today are the holy grail, at some point in time might actually be harmful. And I think rather than us saying this is absolutely true or absolutely false, we should literally just have the open-mindedness to say this is actually interesting.
Yeah.
That's the starting point. This is interesting, and therefore I'm going to learn more.
Yeah.
Right? Like I remember asking doctors, so have you heard of apolipoprotein B? No. No one had heard of it.
I never learned that in medical school.
Totally, right? Yeah. And now we know it's one of the biomarkers that best predicts cardiovascular risk, right? And there's just so many things like that. And for some reason, there's this like ego that exists in the profession of, no, we know it all, right? And my point isn't to say that I even to this day know more than doctors. I don't. I couldn't do what a doctor does. My point is to say there's a lot of things doctors don't know. There's a lot of things we all don't know, and we need to acknowledge that fact.
Yeah.
Right? We can't just, for some reason, sit in our high horse and say we've gone through a degree and all of a sudden know everything.
Yeah.
Instead, we can say, here's what I know, here's what I don't know. I'm going to learn. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to use tools at my disposal because that's how I improve. And if I improve, I improve the lives of humans. I improve the lives of people in the world, and therefore we can do more things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the times are just changing so fast, right? And ultimately, people are going to decide the doctors that they want to go see are the ones that do have humility, that are willing to learn and stay up to speed. And I see this in like the up and coming doctors. My younger brother is actually in medical school now, and he's trying to stay up like to speed with everything and try things a new way. And, especially in the age of social media now, a lot of doctors are taking to like try to be more like health conscious, take care of their health, but also, look at new trends. And then there is still some that like kind of create a little cult of like, hey, if we're going to decide something's bad, then all of us are going to gang up and say that thing is bad. So I do still see there's some little, subsections of cults within the profession. But, a lot of our listeners are healthcare professionals. And I've even seen like that growing interest from healthcare professionals to get involved in health tech, to get involved in life science, to get involved in the wellness industry. What would you say to like healthcare professionals who want to be part of this change, right? I don't know if you hire clinicians within your company, or if you've worked with clinicians. I know you're friends with a lot of other doctors as well. Like, what would you say to healthcare professionals that are interested in this space? They want to be part of the change. They want to do what SuperPower is doing, right? Like innovating.
I think health professionals are some of the best place to actually create change in health. We think about it very actively in every role. If a designer has health experience, we're better off. If a product manager has health experience, we're better off. If an engineer has health experience, we're better off. What do you mean by health experience?
Like clinical experience or?
Clinical experience, ideally. Yeah. Any experience is useful. Even having been through a personal health journey is useful. But clinical experience is certainly more useful because you spend a lot of time learning. And that's great. Like the rate of learning, the amount you learn, the situations you have to be in, teach you a lot. They certainly doesn't teach you everything. There's still a lot more to learn. We're on this constant journey of learning, but it teaches you a lot. And it's non-trivial for someone else who hasn't spent that much time studying to just gain that knowledge. And that changes the way in which you make decisions, the way in which you understand how to build products. So I think health professionals, clinicians can and should explore what it means to actually, instead of servicing the system, build the system, right? Servicing a system allows you to impact maybe a few hundred or thousand people. Building a system ideally gets to the millions over time. And then the other thing is there are a lot of people who have this idea of one day. One day I'll do this. Or I have to do this and this and this first, and then I'll do the thing I actually want. And there's this tendency to talk about career progression or ladders or linearity or earning the right to do something. And the reality is people can just do the thing. People can just start. The fastest path between A and Z is not to go through B, C, D. It's like literally go A to Z, just like do the thing. Our fearful brains will want to create a lot of steps. They'll want to create a lot of requirements. They'll want to have all sorts of reasoning. And the reality is if you actually want to do that thing enough, just do the thing. The best way to get better at the thing is doing the thing, not doing something adjacent to the thing.
I love that. Love that. Max, what's your vision for the world?
I think that if we improve health, we improve every aspect of life. And today we have kind of settled for health or the health system getting us to just fine. Right? So sometimes it doesn't even do that. We've settled for it just getting us to just fine. And I think the way we should think about health is a tool to make us the most optimal versions of ourselves we can be. Right? I really believe that if you improve your health, you're happier, you're more present, you're a better spouse, a better parent. You can create more in the world. You can get more done. Right? You're actually maximizing your humanity. I think one purpose of life is life, and health is the thing that supports that.
Max, I know you got to run. Thank you so much for jumping on this podcast with me. It's been a pleasure. We'll link to SuperPower in the comments. And where can people connect with you?
Twitter, LinkedIn, email, or the usual places.
Awesome. Thanks, Max.